To the cloud. To the cloud we go. Okay. So we're going to be, like I said, I told you guys that we were going to dive into this book of 17 indisputable laws of teamwork, and we absolutely are, but I'm only really going to talk about 2 of the laws today. And then I got a few other of his books, but it does talk about some of the subjects that we're addressing in these 2 laws. And so one of the ones I'm going to be working from is developing the leaders around you. And so I thought that was pretty fitting for identifying potential leaders, as well as dealing with difficult team members and what to do with them. So the 2 laws that we're going to be working from with the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork are Law 6, the law of the catalyst, and Law 5, the law of the chain. Sorry, I keep having to admit people. So the law of the catalyst is going to help us develop an understanding of winning teams and the players in those teams that make things happen, and understand what to look for and how to identify these key players. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have witnessed powerhouse teams and you're like, how are they doing what they're doing? How are they getting where they're going? Like, what the heck? How is this happening? And it is because they have a team of powerhouse players. I want you to think about great sports dynasty teams like the Chicago Bulls and back in the day when it was the San Francisco 49ers and the Patriots. Like, they were powerhouses because they had such a high concentration of powerhouse players. They had catalyst players. And we're going to talk a little bit about what a catalyst player is, how to identify them, how to use them on your team, how to recruit them. These are going to help us distinguish, and the law of the chain is how to train or trade low quality performers. That's what we're going to also kind of dive into. So one is about understanding key players you want to recruit, and one is really about addressing difficult players that, aren't buying into the team vision, are momentum breakers, and you're kind of stuck with what to do with them, how to carry on, kind of still how to have a productive team atmosphere. I know that seems to be very common when it comes to, really it's just with any team in general, is what to do with players that aren't performing or that aren't blending, and then how to find better players. These are going to help us distinguish that the strength of the team is impacted by its weakest link, as well as how rotten attitudes affect the team. In addition, we're going to talk a little bit about how to identify potential recruits or current players, which actually isn't that difficult. The difficult part is handling difficult people. And I think we can all attest to that. So I think a lot of us tend to disillusion ourselves and put into believing that the difficult part of this is recruiting quality people. How many of you guys would say you have a hard time recruiting people? You have a hard time, finding good quality folks. Whenever we ask people what they want us to teach on, or, what's your biggest struggle? Everybody says recruiting. Everybody. Nobody says how to handle difficult people on my team. But that is the singular reason teams fail, is not adequately handling difficult people, momentum breakers on your team. And that's because it's the most difficult part. How many of you guys absolutely love conflict and love confronting people and giving them difficult news, right? Like, how many of you guys would just love to be the boss of a corporation, be like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. I love this. I come to work just to fire people. Nobody. Everybody dreads it. Nobody wants to do it. It's super stressful, right? That's why people are like, no, thanks. That's the difficult part. The difficult part isn't recruiting, because we look at it and go, we're so desperate for people, we will recruit anybody. But that's not the difficult part. I'm even going to show you how it really isn't that difficult to recruit quality people. It really, really isn't. And we're going to kind of get into that. So if you're taking notes, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is how to identify potential leaders. And we're going to be using the law of the catalyst. And it says most teams don't naturally get better on their own. Left alone, they don't grow or improve or reach championship caliber. Instead, they tend to wind down. How many of you have ever experienced a plateau in your team, right? It seemed like things were going, and then they're like, not, right? Our job is to always be on the lookout for a catalyst. And if you're doing a good job with growing your network and engaging with people and constantly diving into the trenches and building those relationships with folks, you're always bound to find the next catalyst. We call them in at least our team. I see we have a couple other teams, but we call them unicorns. Okay, you look for a unicorn, and we know that unicorns are a rare breed, right? They're not just prancing around in fields of unicorns. There's not like an area of the world where unicorns are bred, and that just doesn't happen. Trish, you look beautiful. Catalysts are get it done and then some people. These are the individuals who are always going above and beyond, putting in the extra effort, and who always want more for themselves. And then not in like a selfish way, but they're driven, as in they want more. They're never satisfied with the status quo. They're always doing the next best thing. These are people who, they win one game and then they're like, awesome, cool, I won that game, but how can I get better? Okay, cool, I got this award, but how can I get the next award? And a lot of people want to kind of almost demonize that and villainize it like it's a bad thing, like it's this insatiable hunger that will never be satiated, almost greed. And that's not it. It's just that they always want more. They're goal driven. They are people who they want to be the best, right? These are people who got A- and did the extra work to get A+. Okay, these are those kinds of people. Whereas some people are just like, an A's an A. Woo! In fact, a B+ is still kind of an A, so I'm gonna take it. Not those people. The people that are like an A, oh my God, no, how do I make that an A+? In fact, if A++s are a thing, how do I get that? Right? These are your catalyst players. So we need to begin identifying people and recruiting people based on their ability, not their potential. And I know that is going to be a huge blow to a lot of people, and we'll talk about why. But we need to start recruiting people based on their ability and not their potential. And so here's the thing. By ability, I don't mean skill. Right? How many people, when I said recruit people based on your ability, you kind of panicked and you're like, oh, crap. I don't know how to really do a whole lot of things, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about how to do a lot of things. We're not talking about skills, right? Ability is something completely different. We're going to talk a little bit more about what ability is and what we're looking for. And so we're talking about the ability to remain coachable, the ability to be flexible, the ability to communicate, ability for emotional intelligence, ability to grow, ability to lead, ability to have integrity, ability to take responsibility. So ability, what is their ability? Ability is almost like potential, but action-based. Potential is kind of up here. It's more in your brain. It's more in your heart. It's more of like, I think I can do this. It's your growth potential, right? So it's almost like how we say the sky is the limit. You can build a building as big as you want to because there's nothing keeping it from being smaller, right? It's not like I can build a building in my house, but I'm capped at my ceiling. I can't build past it, right? That's ability. Your potential is like building a building outside. It's limitless. So when you're judging people based on their potential, you're judging everybody. Everyone has the same potential. But we think that we have different potential. Oh, they got so much potential. No, they have more abilities. They have more abilities that you see potential in. And so you need to differentiate that. So stop looking for potential in people because potential doesn't matter. Just because there's room in the sky for a building doesn't mean a building will just manifest, right? And be built. So everybody has the same potential, but not everybody has the same ability. So also let's kind of identify the three kinds of players we want on teams. Okay, the three kinds of people we want on teams, but that are on teams. Let's just every team, whether it's sports, what we do, corporations, doesn't matter. Here are the three kinds of people. people who don't want the ball, right? Some people don't have the ability to come through for the team in high pressure situations because they doubt their ability, or maybe they know their ability and they know their ability is limited. As a result, they don't want the responsibility of carrying the team to victory. These folks do not like competition because they doubt their ability to perform, especially when compared to other key players. Allow them to play in their area of strength, but do not count on them to take ownership for leadership positions until they outgrow the desire to push off responsibility to others. Right? So people, when you go to like, you're looking and if you're playing basketball, right? And you're like, hey, Joe, open up. They're like, what? Huh? Me, Joe? No. Oh, they're open. You know, it's like, they don't want to do the layup. They don't want to go for the free throw. They don't want to do that. They're like, ooh, no, thanks. Right. Then there are people who want the ball, but shouldn't have it. There are people who want the ball and shouldn't have it, right? Kind of like the quarterback, and they're looking and they're like, all right, who do I throw it to? And there's like the wide open person and they're like, nope, who's open? They're like looking over that person like, oh, they just absolutely cannot be my only option, right? So the people who want the ball but shouldn't have it. So this group of people contains individuals who cannot carry the team to victory. The two problems are they either overestimate their ability because of their large ego, or they underestimate their ability and put the team in danger. Sometimes people who have large egos often are unmatched in the talent department. So they think that they are better than they actually are. And here it says these people can be very dangerous to the team. These are also people who are very self-serving on the team because they're not necessarily looking at it from a team perspective, but a go me, go me, go me. The last one is there are people who want the ball and should have the ball. This is by far the smallest group, consisting of people who are the go-to key players, especially in crunch time. These are the catalysts. These are the people who make every team and organization better simply because they want to be the best and they make everyone around them better. So we've talked before about how everybody is equal, but not everybody is important in specific things. And so a lot of people, when they don't feel valued in a particular, or they don't feel important in a particular situation, I want you to think about can screws do all the exact same things as nails? Let me know in the chat. Do you feel like screws and nails are the same? Like they're essentially the same, right? No, yes. So Tracy says no. Laura says no. I mean, I could hang up my whiteboard with a screw or a nail, I guess, or they kind of go in the wall and they hang stuff, but they're different. It doesn't mean that the screw is less valuable than the nail, or the nail is less valuable than the screw. They just are meant to do different things, and it's not a good fit for the project you have. And so if you're that person who is the nail or is the screw, or you're the carpenter deciding between the nail and the screw, it's not something that needs to be taken personally. It simply is what you are good at, what you do is not a good fit for the project at hand. But a lot of times people want to get all up in their feels when they're like, I'm not important to the team. I'm not on the same level. I'm not here. I'm not No, it's just that certain abilities are better suited for certain projects than others. Certain things call for screws, certain things call for nails. Yeah, Tracy, I totally agree with you. And I think, again, we have to take, when we're talking about a team, we have to take the I part out of it, right? I know it's super cliche. There is no I in team, but it's a saying for a reason, right? We kind of have to take the personal aspect out in order to fully recognize and reveal our true potential in a team environment. And as we kind of really dive into this book, we'll learn about the law of significance, where it just says nothing great can ever be accomplished alone. It's always as a team. And in order to do that, you have to surrender your personal ego and the things that hold you up and whatever in order to fully lean into the abilities of the people around you. So let's talk about identifying potential leaders. So identifying potential leaders is by far and large one of the most difficult tasks a leader has, aside from it's not difficult to identify difficult people, right? We all know them. I'm sure if I said, who are the difficult people on your team? You'd be like, you'd know them, right? But if I said, who are the best people on your team? You'd probably know of a couple right off the top of your head, but you'd probably start to rationalize in your head, well, I don't know, Brittany's pretty good at this too. I mean, she's really good. It wouldn't be as clear, would it? Some of them might be, but not all of them. Because you'd start to rationalize how, well, Abigail's really good at this, and well, Rachel's really good at that. I don't know, Emily's pretty good at this too. I mean, they're all pretty good, but you know exactly who the weak links are. You're like, oh, I know, right? So identifying potential leaders is by far and large one of the most difficult tasks a leader has and is much rarer. John C. Maxwell says there is something much more important and scarce than ability. You want to take a guess what that is? There is something much more scarce in a leader than ability. Tracy says dedication. Any other guesses? Persistence, confidence. These are all really great. Absolutely. Confidence. So John C. Maxwell says that there is something much more important and scarce than ability in a leader, and it is the ability to recognize ability. The true quality of a good leader is the ability to recognize others' ability. It is the ability to recognize their passion, their purpose, and placing them accordingly. Because you first have to recognize ability and not potential. Anybody can recognize potential because it's the hope of things we want our ability to reach to. But ability is based on things that are currently existing within us. One of the primary responsibilities of a successful leader is to identify potential leaders, and this is absolutely critical. And in order to identify ability and identify potential first, know what you are looking for. If you cannot identify and call by name the characteristics of which you want in a fellow leader, then you need to get to the drawing board. And I talk about this all the time. You need to know your customer avatar, right? Same thing with your fellow leaders. You literally need to write down. I know a lot of my girls in here, we played that MASH, right? Sleepovers. Maybe some of you guys are giving me weird looks, maybe not, where you did a little on the paper and like mansion, apartment, shack, house, you're right. You did all the Abigail's, like she was like not even a sperm then. So she was way too long. She wasn't even like a thought. Anyway, you got very, very specific. You know what it is? Okay, good. I wasn't sure if they did it these days. I don't know. You got specific, and it's the same thing with this. I want you to know the exact characteristics, the exact qualities if you could create your ideal business partner, your ideal promoter, if you could literally fashion and pick things like determination and persistence and good with tech and good with public speaking and blah, 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 and make them and create them, and poof, they came to life. Okay? You need to get that specific. And then we talk also a lot about like manifestation of goals and getting very specific about your goals. You need to do the same thing with your promoters. I know you guys don't have a list of these things. Tracy does, okay. But I'm saying most of y'all don't have one. You know why? Because you're taking anybody. You're taking anybody and everybody who live in, breathe in, walk in. Maybe they not walk in. I don't know. Whatever. You're like, you breathe in, come work with me. I got you. Okay. So that's how I can tell. Because you guys don't know what you're looking for. So you don't know where to look, and you don't know when you found them. Also, because you're not patient enough, because like we talked about, catalysts are unicorns. You're going to pass up a lot of zebras, a lot of horses, a lot of camels, and a lot of giraffes because you're waiting for the unicorn, right? So many of us are just like, we're waiting and we're like, oh, no, fine, I'll just take a zebra. Like, they're just as good, right? No, they're not just as good. So you need to get to the drawing board. You need to know the specific characteristics you are looking for in a potential leader. The key to making the right choice depends on two things. Number one, your ability to see the big picture. And number two, your ability to judge potentials is a good start to begin with this inventory. So you need to have some discernment, some character discernment, and go with your gut. This is why I always ask people questions in the very beginning. I have conversations with people. This is why I'm also not afraid to ask them to do things. Hey, you know what? I'd love for you to get on a Zoom tonight. You know what happens if they can't get on a Zoom tonight? And I say, hey, that's okay. We have another one tomorrow night. And they hit me with something like, oh, I forgot. Behaviors don't lie. Patterns don't lie. That person will not work with me until I can see that they can get on a Zoom. Why? Because what we do, we get on Zooms. Hey, I'd love for you to make a post and do a blah, 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 blah. And they hit make a post for a whole week. Guess what? You're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, right? It's like, I want to go work at Subway, but I don't want to touch meat. I'm allergic to the tomatoes. I'm like not about that carb life. And so I can't even get near bread but I still want to work there. That's what some of y'all be hiring. Some of y'all hiring people who like don't want to touch meat, don't want to touch cheese, allergic to tomatoes, can't get near carbs, but they're like, I still want you to give me a paycheck because I show up and I'm wearing the uniform. No. Why does every job have an orientation and a probationary period? Because they figure you may not be a good fit. So why are you afraid to do that? It's because you probably don't value your position or your job or what you do here like you would that. And that's a bigger issue. So let's talk about John C. Maxwell talks about the 5 A's. An inventory, if you will, when thinking or considering potentials. Number 1 is assessment of needs. You know, what's needed? What are they lacking? What do I need to do to train them? What is it that they need? Assets on hand. Ability of candidates. Attitude of candidates, and accomplishments of candidates. I know lots and lots and lots of you be afraid to ask them what their accomplishments are, what they're really good at. What have they done in their lifetime? Because I don't know about you guys, and I love y'all, but ain't nothing so special about you that you were going to make someone go from a couch potato to $1 million earner. Okay. The first one before assets was assessment. So asking people what they've done. Now, this doesn't qualify. Oh, I went to Yale and I graduated summa cum. That's not what I'm talking about. What are some things that they have completed? I don't care what it is. The last one was accomplishments. What have they done in their life? What are things that they're good at? Can they follow through on things? Can they commit to things? Are they dedicated to stuff? That is what accomplishments show. Accomplishments are people who get things done. And I don't know about you, but I want to partner with people who get things done. So I don't want you to get stuck in your head like, you know, we're looking for like Harvard graduates or something, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not looking for, you know, class president. I'm looking for what can they dedicate themselves to? What can they commit themselves to? What can they discipline themselves to accomplish? That's what accomplishments are. It could be, yeah, I ran a half marathon last year. Hot damn. Well, you know what? I could never do that. So that takes some discipline and commitment and like things like that. What are they doing? Attitude. I'll tell you what, when I'm talking to somebody and they give me like one word answers, I know some people are like, how do you even have people on your team, Courtney? You're so picky. Well, you know what? I think that's why I have some pretty darn good people. But if they're like, yeah, good. Okay. I don't know about you. That does not scream enthusiasm, you know? And that is not something I want to manufacture in people. Yeah, the thumbs up. Oh, Lord. Sorry. Thumbs up. Gross. Like, or the K. K boo, you're not hired. Okay, that's kind of the way I looking at it. And then also assets on hand. It means take into account the people you currently have on your team. And is this person a good fit? Is this person a good fit for your team with the people who currently exist there? Because guess what? They're going to be a part of it. They're not going to be a properly functioning, adding value to the team if they can't stand the people on the team or if they're not going to be a good fit for them. So I want you, if you haven't yet, I want you to make a list of characteristics that you want to work within a fellow leader. I want you to imagine your ideal candidate, what they look like, how they would act, how they would speak, what their strengths are. And I want you to begin looking for these people. Okay. For example, does this person have strong people skills, the ability to communicate and problem solve? Are they resourceful? Does this person go above and beyond or accept the status quo? Do they have a positive spirit? I'll tell you what, I want to recruit the guy at the gas station down the street and you think I'm lying. I want to recruit him. You know why? Because he treats it like it's the Ritz freaking Carlton and it's the Circle K. But he greets you so promptly and proudly, and he takes out the trash like it's an honor to take the trash out. And the way he communicates to you is like you are the president. And I'm just like, that is a person who goes above and beyond, who treats their job with respect, and they treat themselves with respect in that position. Then you get the people who are just like, yeah, next. Right at the gas station. And then you're like, never mind. And we make that rationale like, well, it's the gas station. Would you be happy to work there? But I look at it and I'm like, but this guy, right? I want to recruit my house cleaner. Why? She stamps my toilet paper. She stamps it. She doesn't have to do that. I don't pay her more for that. That's just something she wants to do because she takes pride in her work. She goes above and beyond. Those are the people, guys, that you need to be recruiting. The people that go above and beyond. And that is not something that you can manufacture with enough love and support and trainings. That is a characteristic people either have or they don't have. And again, that's the whole ability versus potential thing. I think a lot of times we see that people have the potential. Well, of course. Everyone has the potential to go be a brain surgeon. Everyone has the potential to go do this and to go do that, but they won't. And that's what a lot of you guys are encountering is you're recruiting people based on the potential you see in them and the potential they want to have. And you see more for them than they see in the opportunity. And you're beating your head against a wall. So according to, well, hold on a second. Let me backtrack a little bit. So in his book, he has an assessment in this one, Developing the Leaders Around You. He has an assessment and it helps you to identify potential leaders based on their scores, right? Below 60 is a little bit too difficult to judge, but typically there are people that will never become leaders in their lifetime based on their ability, lack of desire. They're just like, I am totally okay with settling, right? We know people like that in our life, right? People who maybe are like, I'm totally cool with getting by, making the minimum amount, or maybe chilling out on state aid, that they're paying for my house. I literally have no desire to get a job and no desire to do this. I am cool. I am cool with it, right? Hold on. All right, you want to you want to acquire people with a score of 80 or above because there is what's called the law of diminishing expertise. And when I say this, you're going to go, oh, wow, that makes so much sense. Okay. You will always recruit people who do not do better than you. You will always recruit people who are doing just a little bit less. So I want you to think about this, especially we can see it, especially with us in what we do. I know for me, I think my depth goes to 21. I think we have 21 levels. I want you to think about that. If we are always recruiting people who are, let's even say it's maybe half a point below us. I want you to add that all up, 20 levels down. The law of diminishing expertise. That means that by the time my 20th level is not even reaching the bare minimum of the assessment score. They're not even meeting the characteristics necessary of being on a team, let alone being a leader. Have you ever seen that? Like you do really good and you're like, wow, I recruited someone who's really good. And then you start getting to like level 3 and 4 and you're like, what the heck, what is happening? Where are we getting these people? You know, like, I mean, it's true. And you're like, what the heck? And it's because of the law of diminishing expertise. But here's the thing is most people don't recruit others who are only half a point below them. They're usually like 2, 3, 4, 5 points. And when you do that, you don't need to have lots of depth before you start hitting a wall with people who are just doing nothing. And so obviously you're saying, well, if we're always going to recruit people who are doing less than us, then how do we keep that law of diminishing expertise from happening? Well, I tell you what, is you're always improving and you're always developing other leaders and you're always improving those scores. So eventually people who are, you know, if you're a 95 and someone below you is 94, you're eventually going to train them to become a 95. And the people below them are eventually going to train them to become from an 85 to a 90. Ideally, that's kind of what happens. But again, in the law of the chain, the larger gap between your highest qualified people and your least qualified people, the larger that gap is, the more detriment to your growth. Your gap should not be that big. And I think I talked about it with my leader Zoom. I don't know if I talked about it on here, but it's worth mentioning one more time because the math, if people are math people, you're going to be like, whoa. So I want you to imagine you have 5 people on your team and they're all measuring on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being really bad, 10 being really awesome. And you have 4 people who are 10s, like they're killers, they're awesome, they're badass, right? You have 1 person who's a 5. You're thinking, okay, 1 person, not bad. We've got 4 other people. We've got 4 rock stars, right? Add them all together, that's 45. Not bad. But when you work as a team, you don't add, you multiply, you compound efforts. So let's multiply that. 10, 10, 10, 10, and 5 is 50,000. Okay, we're better than 45, right? Not bad. What is it when you have a team of, you just change out that one person who's a 5 and you make them a 10. Anyone know that math? You change out that one person. I see you all like, carry the 4. It's 100,000. Laura got it. It's 100,000. The difference between that one person diminished the effectiveness of the team by 50%. 1 person. 10, 10, 10, 10, 5 was 50,000. A team of all 10s was 100,000. So when you think that the law of the chain, the law of the weakest link doesn't exist, it does. And sometimes you get, and we had talked about this, is you either got to train them or trade them. TRAIN or TRADE, train or trade. But let's get into the specific characteristics to look for in recruiting quality people. I will take them, copy them, and paste them in here for all you note takers. There you go. Character, influence, positive attitude, excellent people skills. Oh, that's not supposed to say evidence gifts, evident gifts, meaning what they are good at is evident. You don't have to dig for it. It's not, you're not a pirate, okay? Your job is not to uncover buried treasure. That's not what you're here for. Everyone is good at something, but it is not your job to find out what it is. They have evident gifts. They have a proven track record, right? Those accomplishments we were talking about. They have a proven track record. Confidence, self-discipline, effective communication skills, and discontent with the status quo, right? That's that always going the extra mile, going above and beyond, not settling. People who are repulsed by mediocrity, okay? And it says we're also going to talk about how to combat the trend toward mediocrity and go against the flow of the law of diminishing expertise, you know, how to recruit highly effective people. He talks about how to combat the law of diminishing expertise is to, number one, is to hire hire the most highly developed person you can. Number two is commit to modeling leadership. And then number three is commit to developing those around you. So recruit the highest caliber person you can, model that leadership, and commit to developing those around you. That will help you negate the law of diminishing expertise. When you don't have these in play and you're just, I mean, you don't have a plan for recruiting, then your law of diminishing expertise is you get to maybe like level 2 or 3 and you already at 0. And you can't get lower than 0. Like zeros just won't recruit. Right? So you got to be careful about the level of ability and capability that people have, because eventually it will get to the point where you will stop growing in depth because those people just simply cannot recruit. They cannot get customers. They cannot post. They cannot share. They cannot go live. They don't have that ability. And so momentum is not created by the people in the front, but it is hindered by the people in the back. So you are all tethered to a rope. You are all tied to a rope. It doesn't matter how strong the person in front is. It only matters how heavy the person in back is. It only matters how slow they're walking. Okay, because again, it's not like we have this this false notion that we're all just kind of freely walking around like, hey man, just follow me. No, when you are a team and you are working as a team unit, you are tethered together like on a rope. And so naturally, the speed of the slowest person determines the speed of the whole team. And those are kind of, we talked before about those momentum makers, those momentum takers and breakers, the people at the very end, or they could even be in the middle. Heck, they could be the person right in back of the leader. The slowest person is the slowest person. Doesn't matter. They are breaking that momentum. So now let's start figuring out who is not for your team. So there are 3 kinds of people, and it's people who will not take the journey. And that's based on lack of desire. People who will not take the journey with you. People who should not take the journey with you. That's a lack of character. And people who cannot take the journey with you. That is a lack of ability. When you figure out when you figure out who these people are, you need to decide how are you either going to train them or trade them. And of course, our first priority is always to train them. And here, that is definitely not in any, shortage by any stretch of the imagination. And so if people are continually not succeeding, either personally or professionally, it is time to trade them. It doesn't mean that their PPA, it's like, oh, their PPA is not high, their PPA is not, oh, fire them. That's not what I'm talking about. If they continue not to grow personally or professionally, it is time to trade them. And we will talk about how to do that. So here's why we need to decide who the weak links are and figure out the best course of action. One reason is that the more competent people have to give their time to compensate for those who won't carry their fair share of the load. How many of you have ever been in a position where, you've had some really crappy team members, like in a job or on a team, and you were like coming in early to compensate for them, coming in late to compensate for them, doing extra stuff. I remember all the time, the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. So it's like the best person is in the military, they call it punished by performance. The better you are at your job, the more responsibility you're given. So it feels like a punishment. The better you are at it, the more they're like, oh, Toby's really good at that. Let Toby do it. Oh, he's good at that too. Let him do that. Oh, he's really good at paperwork. Oh, let him do that too. And then you just do all the things because nobody else can, right? That can happen in a team atmosphere just like this as well. Punished by performance. So we talked about, again, the greater difference in incompetence between the better performing players and the least performing players, the greater it is, the more room for resentment. Okay. The more room there is to breed resentment and the greater detriment there is to the team. Here are some of the consequences that you face when you are unwilling to handle it promptly. The stronger members identify the weak ones and have a hyper awareness of their inability, which can cause, number 2, the stronger members to harbor resentment against the weaker ones. Or number 3, make the sacrifices in order to help the weaker ones, which can 4, result in the stronger members becoming less effective by choice or exhaustion. And then lastly, if you have not handled it, and we've gotten to this point, the stronger members question the leader's ability. Ultimately, this goes back to that tribe mentality of, can you do your job? Can you protect us? Can you ensure that you have the tribe's best interest at heart? And your choices are always being made, whether you are making them intentionally or not. By not getting rid of these people, by not trading them, by not addressing it, you are inherently choosing them over the stronger members. And so a lot of times we tend to ignore it and we tend to say, oh, they'll just fall away. Oh, they'll just kind of do their own thing. I'll just kind of let them be. And so when we do that, we are subconsciously choosing the weaker links over valuing and reinforcing and edifying the stronger ones. And so some of the ways that you can kind of combat that, number 1, is you have to hit it head on. You have to address the problem. You have to talk to the person about their weaknesses. I know people hate that. You don't feel qualified. You're like, I have no right to do this. Here is the thing. It does depend on how you do it. You can't just walk up and be like, yo, you suck at this. We're just not aligned. Bye. Like, that's not what we're talking about. But you do have to have the uncomfortable conversation about how their lack of desire, character, or ability is impeding the success of the team and whether or not their vision still aligns with the team's. And so one of the conversations that you can have with them, and the conversations I have had with people, is having a discussion with them and asking, say, hey, are you open for some feedback? Because I also have some questions for you. And you can ask them point blank. You can make note of some of the things you've noticed. Hey man, I've noticed, that you getting on Zooms less frequently. I've noticed it seems more difficult for you to post. I want to check in with you and ask, do you still feel aligned with your position here in our team? And then you'd have to say this, because it's okay if you don't. You give them permission to say, yeah, you know what, this just isn't my jam anymore. Because some people will say, yeah, no, totally, because they don't want to piss you off or they don't want to hurt your feelings. So you give them permission right away to say, hey, if this isn't aligned with you anymore, that's totally okay. So after say, hey, it's totally okay if not. If your vision, if your journey still does align with us here, how can I help you in the areas you are struggling? Once they give you those areas, you then need to say, do I have your permission to hold you accountable to these? And then you ask this, do we come to the agreement that if you cannot, that if even with my checking in and my holding you accountable, you still cannot meet these criteria you have set, we come to the common understanding that this is no longer in alignment with your journey, that this might not any longer be part of, what you want to do. And so you're putting all the responsibility on them to identify their weaknesses, solve their problems, give you permission to hold them accountable. And you both agree that if they still, even after that, cannot do it, they know that the outcome, I don't even want to use the word consequence, the outcome is they are not aligned with the team vision. Now, this doesn't mean that you're fired from, they can still promote if they want it. We don't have that authority. They can still promote, they can still do their thing, but it means that they're no longer getting your energy and the team's energy, because again, they were proving that they were momentum breakers. And it is your job as the leader and our jobs as leaders to identify those and either train or trade them. Because if not, you will be continually weighed down by them. And it is okay to sever those ties. Now, you don't do it immediately. Like I said, you give them the option. Hey, are you open for feedback? Right? Can I also ask, can I also give you some observations? I've noticed blah, 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 all the things you've noticed, right? And then you ask them, whatever the case may be, you can just say, I'm just wondering, are certain things making it difficult for you to do blah, 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 blah? And if so, how can we solve this problem? It might also be that your journey no longer aligns with this. And if so, that is okay. They respond. You then say, awesome. So we agreed that you will do blah, 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 blah. Do I have permission to hold you accountable to that? They're going to say, yep. And then you say, awesome. So we both agree that if I'm holding you accountable and you are continually not meeting those based on the things you have said, we are in agreement that you will no longer be a part of, that you are choosing to no longer be a part of the team. You make it clear they are choosing to no longer be a part of the team, because all behavior is a means of communication. Their behavior is telling you, it is communicating to you that I don't care about this. I don't want it. My words aren't aligning with my actions. Right? And so that is really just kind of how you handle difficult people. and how that you can recruit quality people so that the chances of you having to do that are less so. But when you recruit just anybody, in fact, I think a lot of you just have open auditions. I don't think a lot of you are out there recruiting. I think y'all just have open auditions. I think you all are just like, come on, come on. And it's like a circus up in there, and you're really like, how'd this happen? Right? And we all do that. We all do that when, you know, you have this misconception that you are judging people. I don't want to judge people, right? Well, I feel like if you are judging people based on their character and you are deciding whether they are a positive and appropriate fit for what you are looking for, then I guess if you consider that judging, sure. You're not judging like who they are and the things they've done and like all, you respect them as a person. But again, they need to be a screw for a screw job and a nail for a nail job. So it's just like, they're a screw, but you need a nail. And it is okay that what they're good at is not what you're looking for. So that's kind of how I want you guys to start recruiting people and kind of weeding people through that and kind of talking yourself through that mental war game you have about judging people based on their abilities and not wanting to do that and wanting to give everybody the potential to grow here is, again, I want you to think of that like, are they a screw or are they a nail? What am I looking for? What is my project? What am I doing? Do I need a nail or do I need a screw? Because some of you need a lot of nails, but you got a whole toolbox full of screws. And like, you're wondering why you can't build nothing. So anyway, I know people are going to ask me, but this other book that I got is the John C. Maxwell, Developing the Leaders Around You. I have another one as well. It's upstairs. But I won't overwhelm y'all. But this is also the one I told you we would be going through over the next several weeks, the 17 indisputable laws of teamwork. We won't go through all of them. Some of them I'll just kind of combine into, you know, one little segment. But I really felt like this one deserved a lot more attention because we get questions all the time about recruiting people and how do we recruit good people, and you know, I need people. Like, that's usually always the narrative. So I hope you guys found some value in it. I'm sorry it was so long. For those people who missed it, or for those who want to go back and watch it, we will upload it to the YouTube channel because it was recorded. Thank you, Laura, for reminding me. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks for hopping on, and happy Mother's Day to all you beautiful mamas out there and all that you do. You are so greatly appreciated. So I love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. Bye, guys.